نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أما بعد. Once Jibreel alayhi salam came with another angel to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And the angel had a proposal for the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. He said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving you a choice. If you want, you can be a prophet and a king. And if you want, you can be a messenger and a slave. Which would you like to be? So the Prophet ﷺ realizes that both ways I'm going to remain as a prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now it's just a matter of choosing whether I want to do it being a king or being a slave. So the Prophet ﷺ looked towards Jibreel alayhi salam for his opinion. And Jibreel alayhi salam pointed towards the ground, telling him, keep yourself low. So the Prophet ﷺ understood what Jibreel is saying. So he told that angel that I want to be a slave and a messenger. I don't want to be a king and a prophet. Why did the Prophet ﷺ choose to live as a slave? Meaning a slave of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not the slave of any human being. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created us for His slavery. وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. Allah has created us to be His slaves. And the more submissive one is to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the higher the rank is. The way to attain a high rank in dunya and in akhirah is to humble oneself for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the more a person elevates themselves, makes themselves prominent, makes themselves higher, or tries to raise their head over others, the lower this person falls. And this is mentioned very clearly in a hadith. One who is humble, keeps themselves low for the sake of Allah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes it upon Himself to elevate that person, to raise the rank of that person. And one who does the opposite, who is in the business of trying to raise themselves over others, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes the responsibility of lowering that person. This is why humility was so dear and beloved to the Prophet ﷺ, and his whole life is a reflection of humility. He could never be portrayed, even by his worst enemies, as being someone who is arrogant, someone who is conceited, someone who thinks he's better than other people. Never. This was the way he dealt with other people. And this is how he taught us as well. In fact, in one hadith of Muslim, the Prophet ﷺ told us that Allah Azza wa Jalla has revealed to me, إِنَّ اللَّهَ أَوْحَى إِلَيَّ أَن تَوَاضَعُوا, that Muslims should be humble حَتَّى لَا يَفْخَرَ أَحَدٌ عَلَى أَحَدٍ وَلَا يَبْغِيَ أَحَدٌ عَلَى أَحَدٍ, to the extent that no one feels boastful over another person. No one has the audacity to boast over another person, to be proud over another person. In other words, no one can say that I'm better than so and so. وَلَا يَبْغِيَ أَحَدٌ عَلَى أَحَدٍ, nor would someone have the courage to hurt someone, to do something hurtful to another person because they think that they're superior, they're better than the next person. And this is what happens. When a person feels that someone is lesser than them, what will they do? They'll use rough language with them, sometimes abusive language with them. They'll push them around. They'll try to make them feel bad or put them down in some way or another. The Prophet ﷺ said, Allah has revealed to me that this should be removed, eradicated from my ummah. This boastful attitude. Now someone might ask that, well, if I'm humble all the time, then people will walk all over me. People will just take me for granted. People will think, oh, this person's a pushover. People will think that this person has no self-respect or no self-esteem. So I need to show my self-esteem and my self-respect, and that's why I'm going to raise my head proud. This is a misunderstanding. You can have the highest self-esteem and you can have the greatest amount of self-respect and still be humble. There's a difference between being humble and being humiliated. Humiliated is when a person is abused by someone, put down by someone, or they lower themselves in front of someone for some worldly benefit. They lower themselves. They become really, really humble in front of someone to gain something from them. This is humiliation. But while knowing that you are worthy of respect, but to keep oneself low and prevent oneself from rising high and raising one's head for the sake of Allah only. Because this is a quality that is beloved to Allah. To do this, this is humility, this is tawadu', and this is beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In fact, the Prophet ﷺ, while explaining who will be the residents of Jannah, there will be those who kept themselves humble and low. And who will be the residents of Jahannam? There will be those who kept themselves proud, angry, always raising their heads. So there's a big difference between being humble for the sake of Allah and being humiliated. And our humility to be humble, we are first humble in front of Allah, acknowledging His power, His authority, and acknowledging the authority of what He says and what He tells us to do. So this is where humility begins. Being humble begins with acknowledging that Allah Azza wa Jalla is the greatest, and what His commands are absolute. We never rise above against those commands. We never question them. We never say, no, I think it should be like that, I think it should be like that. This is against humility, and that humility is compulsory on every slave. If we don't have that, then we end up being the followers of shaitan. What did shaitan do? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him a commandment, an instruction, that look, bow to Adam as a greeting for Adam, and primarily because I'm telling you to, I'm your creator. He says, well, no, I'm better than him. He started reasoning. No, I don't think I should be bowing to Adam because I'm actually better than him. If you look at it from my perspective, well, I'm created from fire and he's created from dirt, and dirt always goes down and fire always rises. So it's hard for something that rises naturally to go down. It's hard to get a flame to go down. The flame will always go up. He started using logic. In fact, this was his lack of humility in front of Allah. If he had been humble in front of Allah and say, Allah, you know better, I will submit, he would have succeeded in dunya and in akhirah. But he used his own line of reasoning, and he was so confident in that line of reasoning that it made him adamant, it made him defiant in front of the command of Allah. He was ruined in dunya and ruined in akhirah. One of the most essential qualities of a believer is that they are humble. They don't walk around with they don't have to prove anything to anyone. They don't act larger than life. They don't act more important than they actually are. And they never consider themselves to be superior to the next person for any reason. Whether it's because of family status, or financial status, color, race, ethnicity, language, or anything, talent, no matter what they have, they acknowledge what Allah has given them. But they never feel that they're better than the next person. And that's the direction that we all need to go. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enable us also to adopt these beautiful qualities. وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه